I'm glad to see you again, and I'm glad to be here with you. Glad that we can have a chance once more to be together. I know that I do all the talking when we come together, but I like to think that I'm listening to you in some way, just because, by the grace of God, I'm privileged to care about you and to be able to be in contact with you in this form. I am thinking today of the way a particular good quality can be used to bad ends. This is nothing new, mind you. Again and again, it is the case that something that of itself is good can be twisted into something that is contrary to good. I'm thinking in this case of good people and how we can use their goodness to excuse ourselves or to avoid the potential and the call and the demand that rests upon our own lives. I'm thinking particularly of a sentence spoken a long time ago by a woman dead for the better part of a generation now, the late Dorothy Day. Some of you will remember the name of Dorothy Day. She is still a force in our world today, as new biographies are written of her from time to time, and as there is a renewed emphasis these days on the responsibility of the church for the poor. People start talking again about a woman who had such a vision for the poor, Dorothy Day. She was a Roman Catholic by specific faith. There are a lot of Catholics who say that she should someday be sainted in the style of the Catholic Church because she was such a remarkable woman. She came, mind you, a very rugged, irregular path into her walk with God, a path that had in it patterns of immorality, of involvements that were a reproach to her in one fashion or another, and of conduct of which she repented most passionately after she came to know Christ. Once she came to know Christ, however, she worked as hard for good as once she had worked for evil, only more so. I had a friend like that once who was so energetic for God, and when people would say to him, "Erskine, where do you get all your energy?" he would answer, "I used a lot of energy for the devil in my day. I'm trying to use as much now for God." I think that there was something of that in Dorothy Day. At any rate, people praised her more and more, admired her a great deal, and they began to say of her from time to time that she was a living saint and that someday the Catholic Church might make her a saint. And her answer was, hear this, "Don't call me a saint. I don't want to be dismissed so easily." What did she mean by that? She meant simply this, that when people called her a saint, they were saying, "I know I could never be as good as you are. And therefore," this in parentheses, "therefore I can settle down to being the same mediocre person I've ever been because I can never be that good." It's the kind of feeling some of us will have the next time the Olympics come along and we see these remarkable little girls who bounce around on those bars and all of the rest and do things that are absolutely impossible as far as I can perceive. And I can say quite easily, when I watch that, I could never do that. And I'm quite sure that at this point in my life, that would be a true statement. I think also that since I recall that it was hard for me even to turn a good somersault, that it probably always would have been impossible for me. That's all right to excuse yourself from being an all-pro baseball or football or basketball player or a champion golfer. Yes, quite likely, that's okay. You don't have to be that. But don't excuse yourself from being holy. Don't excuse yourself from being a saint by saying, "I can't be that." And that's what Dorothy Day was afraid of. When people said to her, "You're a saint," she would say, "Don't call me that. I don't want to be dismissed so easily. I don't want, that is, for you to excuse yourself from the challenge of the gospel on the ground that it is beyond your reach. I say that to you, I say that to me. Let us not put someone else on such a pedestal in the spiritual life that we'd be likely to say that person's a saint, with the inference in our very tone of voice, and that's okay for them. I could never be that. It isn't so. You and I can be that too. Not the same kind, not a Mother Teresa, not a Harry Denman. You and I can be, in our place, the extraordinary soul that God means us to be. Don't write yourself off, therefore, by saying, I wish I were like that, or I could never be like that. Say to yourself, that, I think, is the goal I ought to have, under Christ, to be such a person. That's what I want to say to you today. That's what's on my mind. God bless you now. Amen.